Okay, right. So today's webinar is all about, as I said, recruiting and setting up yourself for success. And let's get into it. So for those who don't know us, my name is Colin Wilson, and I have the wonderful Maja, as I said before, joining us. Today's session will cover how to plan and set up your next employee, how to create a job ad, understand the difference of ways to recruit, understand the interview process, and how to offer the job role and set up your next staff member for success. Now, we know right now, Maja, that recruiting is hard for a lot of employers. We're certainly finding that because the job market's not active. But as things change and things start to open up, and I'm very sure that, you know, when the government support packages start to reduce now, we're going to see that opening up, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be some of the things that we need to look into over the next couple of weeks. Definitely recruitment will jump up again.
Yeah, for sure. And that's our webinar now is good timing. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm the owner, director of Key Business Advisors. I love what I do. This is not work. This is what we do every day. We help businesses to go from good to great, and I'm very passionate about what we do. Tell us a bit about yourself, Maja.
So I've been over 10 years, almost hitting on to 13, 14 years in HR. I started off quite young in the HR world, and really I like to say I'm a jack of all trades in terms of anything HR, really there to help more our clients, to provide them with the best solutions possible. If we don't know it, we'll still find it out for you and make sure that we provide you the best possible service. The team is up to date, as am I, in terms of anything HR related, and we're there to support you.
Yeah, excellent. So this webinar is being recorded. Everyone is on mute. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box all the way through the webinar, because we're here to help. That's what we want to do. We love to guide you and try and help you set your business up for success. There's a lot of people registered for the webinar. For those who are not registered, they will receive a copy of this webinar within 24 hours. And then tomorrow around this time, you could also go to our website. It'll be up on our website if you want to, of course, re-look at the webinar. All right, just a bit about our company. We're all about taking business from good to great. And our purpose is to take our customers on a journey to help them improve, you know, their business through all aspects of employee engagement and performance. We've done a hell of a lot of webinars in the last 18 months with COVID. There would be over 30, 40 webinars easy on our website right now for you if you want to go back and have a look through. Our last one we did was all about the vaccination policies, which we engaged a lawyer firm called Bland's Law to help and support us with that, which was a huge success. Okay, 4 things our business KBA offers. Business strategy and growth. We do a hell of a lot of planning with our clients, give them great strategy around how to grow their business, how to grow their teams, their sales. We're all about people and culture, HR advice and support, and sales training. And we've got to stay tuned, because we've got a surprise for everyone at the end. Someone's going to be drawn out at the end of this webinar for a free online training program that we've got, which is all around people and culture, which will happen at the middle of next month. Okay, so Maja, topic 1. How to plan for your next employee. So if I get you to take us through, you are the expert in this. You know, you and the KBA team do a wonderful job helping our clients find the right staff for their business. And we also train businesses on how to do it as well. So over to you, Maja.
So wonderful. Thank you so much, Colin. As we talked about, really, we need to look at the whole overall picture. And that's why we talk about the operational plan. So recruiting someone shouldn't be, okay, we found the gap in the business, we want to fulfill that role. We really need to draw it back to basics and look at, okay, what is our operational plan? What is our business plan? What is the needs of the business? Looking at the current, and we were only talking about it this morning, Colin, in terms of what does the organizational structure look like? What are we planning for in the future? So think about when we're looking at the recruitment plan that we've got in place, do we actually need 1 or 2 people? Or what kind of options can we provide? So let's just say it's a full-time role that we're looking for, and knowing the market's a little bit tougher right now for full-time, as people want to secure and continue those jobs, well, we might look at part-time opportunities or having dual positions available. So thinking about those as options. Thinking about the budget and the forecast when we're looking at the whole recruitment plan. So, okay, we know we've got X amount on salary that we'd like to spend. We always talk about how much of the cost of recruiting someone is generally 3 times the amount of the person that we're hiring. So we're looking at that as an overall forecast. We're also looking at the budget of how much we actually want to spend on that recruitment ad. So right now, LinkedIn has got something going quite well. Is they've got free ads, and then they've got purchased ads, which is the premium ads. And that's another way around a recruitment option. So knowing that I don't have much money to spend, and it might be the best forum, is selecting that as an option, or the traditional Seek and wanting to spend a little bit more so I can get a couple of more applications that I would normally get because of the whole pandemic situation. And I'll go into that a little bit later on this afternoon. Also, when we're looking at the skills and the requirements for the role. So do we want it in as a junior role? Do we want it in between a junior and a senior role? And looking at what the effectiveness would be by hiring the right candidate. Sometimes when we do post an ad, we might go with the traditional senior-based role, but we find out we're getting more administrators coming into the role. Or we're putting out an ad for an administrator and we're getting more experienced role. So looking at where we can work with what the information has been presented, so the candidate pool and so forth. The other one is a position description. People tend to forget about that one, especially when they're recruiting, until they realize they actually need it. Reviewing the position description as it is, it may have worked 2-3 years ago, but now since things have changed and we're going to a hybrid model, we might need to reconsider what's in the position description and what does it look like in a post-COVID life as well. Regardless of this whole pandemic, I'd still look at reviewing the position description. One key one is key dynamics, especially in our business. I love the fact that we've found a really gelled team in terms of everyone just works like a glove. You know, you look at the fingers on a hand and everyone fits perfectly. We tailor it to the strengths and the weaknesses of the team and really clench on strings there to make sure that we've got the right team for the business. So that's really strongly encouraged within you doing this in your business. Also considering the interview panel. So for example, in our business, it might be Colin and Alison in the first round and myself and Lorraine in the second round in our business, considering the timeline of events as well when we're looking at this interview process is really important to have a look at, because the last thing you want to do is saying, Colin, do you have a free minute to jump in on an interview 15 minutes before the interview starts? So considering those the people's calendars and availability as well. And then I guess the most important one is looking at how we're going to induct them. What's the plan when we bring this person on?
I think, Maja, one of the things we see is a lot of companies, especially in small business, do all this work in trying to get the right employee, and then they, if I use the word, set them up to fail because their induction process is not strong. They think, 3 hours or 1 hour or a day is suitable. But if you're bringing somebody on, it also depends on the skill level. It is important to set that person up for success with your best team to make sure, and we do that very, very well and train people that very, very well on what to do and set up like a week or a 2-week induction program, getting all stakeholders involved. Okay, take us through the importance. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, even past that 2 weeks, it's really important to check in at 1 month, at 3 months. I always talk about at month 1, they're still trying to get their understanding in the business, getting to know the business. But by month 3, they've got a better understanding and actually can start producing you that work. So checking in on a monthly basis, or month 1 and month 3, you really get where that person is in the need. Are they the right person for your business?
Yeah. Okay, take us through the importance of the recruiting tools that you guys use.
Yeah, so absolutely, Cole. And as you know, we like to use various different platforms, and we never give up to try and find the right person for the business, for our clients that we do recruitment for. We really look at the traditional platforms being Seek and LinkedIn. Like I mentioned before, LinkedIn has changed its tactic, and perhaps and again, it's not one size fits all. It's finding where that particular recruitment platform really works. Especially, let's just say you're a maintenance company, something like Seek and LinkedIn will not be the right method or platform. And it might be something like Gumtree, or it might be even the jobs board or Dora or so forth. So selecting that right platform for the role that you're advertising for. The use of application forms, it's really important, I believe, from a covering your facts and basis before the person actually enters the room, especially now with this whole COVID situation. Questions may be asked, are you vaccinated? And having that as a question on the form. So, and also making sure that you kind of have your own checklist, even though that's not going to be the be all and end all, because obviously that person will smash it in the interview and you hire them for what they need. But the application form gives you something like reference checks in there, a bit more about schooling, any medical exemptions that they may need or processes they need from that perspective as well. Even getting stuff like driver's license or working visas are generally on those forms also. Really important to screen candidates. So when we talk about screening candidate, it is about Joe Blow has applied for the role. They seem somewhat fit for the role. Rather than calling them in and say, hey Joe, come in for an interview, really having some questions to ask them in the first instance is very important, just to get a feel, that you get the connection with that person, but you're also seeing by ticking off some of the boxes before the interview, you already have an idea of perhaps they are the right fit for the role. Skills assessment is a new thing that's come. Well, it's not so new, but it's been more and more used over the last last 12, 24 months. Really good opportunity to do it for someone, perhaps who it is a marketing role or a role that requires web development, or an accountant or something like that, someone that's going into a role that really needs to show what you can do. A skills assessment is quite good for that process. Even asking people for samples of, if it is a marketing role, a sample of what their websites look like, what does their work look like, that will be shown in their own portfolio. From there, interview guides. So really important to have the same interview guide. So there's no point of creating one guide if it's not going to fit all in terms of the questions that you'll ask. Really gives you the opportunity for procedural fairness, reflecting back to that person what they answered. And it's actually a good tool to say, hey, 12 months later, you said you could do this in this role and you haven't produced that. So you can really use that as something to fall back onto, as well as reference checks. Really important to get reference checks done to qualify the person and that you're selecting the right person. Now, for example, if someone's got a criminal history behind them and it's past 7 years, it's something that you can't really bring up, but it is obviously something in the business that may affect in the current situation. If it's, say, it's theft and they did that 6 years ago, then that is something that you could perhaps say, look, I can't employ you because of that. But it does give you, from that perspective, from the police checks and the background checks that we do with them.
I think also too, Maja, when you put that out there, it might avoid somebody applying for the job if they know that that's part of the role that you're actually doing. I just want to pick up on something you said in relation to like vaccination. So that's really interesting because we've done so many webinars on that. And it's advised by the lawyer that not to put it on a job ad. This job is subject to being vaccinated, right? That's something you can probably cover, as you said, like in a form they come to, or even a phone screen before they come in to see you or something like that. But definitely don't put it out there. That's been his recommendation, because you just don't want that, if I use the word, people coming, and being negative about it. Not saying that it's going to happen, but we just want to try and make sure that we're doing the right thing and doing that. And the laws keep changing. It's another subject, but just make sure you don't put that job ad out saying this job is subject to you being fully vaccinated in writing.
Yeah. So in terms of that, though, Colin, for someone that is a healthcare professional and the role is a healthcare role, and the legislative requirements are that they form part of tier 1 and tier 2, then to that extent, and again, seek advice for that. But in depending on the role requirements, they may need that to be on a job ad. But a generalist role for an accountant, an office admin person, someone who is not customer facing, absolutely don't put that on. A good thing that comes up in Seek as well is it actually has one of the 8 questions that you do select as are you vaccinated? Yes, no, getting vaccinated, and so forth.
That's why they're applying for the job. Yes. Okay,
yes.
Cool. All right, very good. The right candidate.
Yeah, so we all look for that, what I like to call diamond in the rough, and it's sometimes not as easy to get that when we're looking for it, but and that's what we hope to achieve, I guess. But the best way to look, when we're looking for that successful candidate, is how they present themselves, how confident they are and honest. I had a guy come into an interview and came in a tracksuit, but guess what? He presented all the right answers, what I needed. But that's not always going to be the be all and end all. It's also how they present, how they discuss through those interviews, how they interact. Like, they can know all the right answers, but if they don't fit and they don't gel with what the business needs, that then becomes an issue. The things that I suggest to consider is, I guess, how prepared are they for the interview? Do they understand the business? Do they do research? To the point where in some of the recruitments I've had is they've even checked their LinkedIn and seeing what grade or what group size the employee listing is at, whether it's the 1 to 15 or 15 to 30 or so forth. They delve into that level of understanding and research of a client, and even seeing what the competitors do and so forth. So that's really important, I think, understanding what the business does and a little bit more than just what Google says. How did they greet you professionally? Obviously, most of the interviews are done virtually, but how they say hello. I mean, they can't handshake over the computer screen, but it's really how they connect with you or instantaneously. But I do want to bring up, and I talk about the big handshake is quite important, because when we do start seeing people face to face, and we've done some interviews, people actually don't, whether they're scared to have that handshake because they don't know if it's morally right during this pandemic, or the way that they, where they pull away and are shy. And obviously having a welcoming smile and a warm welcome when they do walk in that door, or when they do come on the video. Looking at the arrival time as well, especially now whilst we're doing interviews virtually, you can see when they come in, because it'll say someone's waiting for you, and it might send you an email that they've popped up ready for the interview. Or some people come right on time. So just making it something more than 10 to 15 minutes prior, especially if it's a face-to-face interview, that anything more than 15 minutes can be seen as, I guess, not a negative, but people do look at that also, and how close people come to that interview time. And we always talk about the STAR answers. So when they're providing you an answer, looking at the situation, how did they describe it? What was the situation and how did they describe it? The tasks, what did they achieve by putting those with the action and the results? So going through a version or a story as opposed to just answering the question. And I think the key one at the end is really when an employer asks, do you have any questions for us? Having some sort of question available that you can answer.
I think what's important is, if I look at our other business, which is Kiva Careers, we're trying to teach the younger generation today just how to be prepared for an interview and go in with those questions, what I think is really important. Well done, mate. Take us through the topic 2, how to create a job ad.
Yeah, so I've used a little bit here, more so as I've got the Seek photo, but LinkedIn is quite similar in this instance. So when we're talking about the job title, looking at it as a simple or a common job title rather than a specialized title. What I mean by that, if it's an office administrator, don't call them a five word position when it could be office admin or receptionist role. Obviously, in this instance, I've used the example of an NDIS support coordinator role, which is one that we're recruiting for now, but it's important to have NDIS at the front of it because that is the nature of the relationship that this role really it's a must have. So specific with NDIS experience. So looking at how that comes apart, when you're looking at through LinkedIn or another application, a recruitment application, it does talk about how about you suggest this particular position title. The other thing is looking at the right category. So perhaps in the first instance, you might have chosen a specific category that you thought you fit into, but having a review over the next couple of hours, days, seeing, okay, well, maybe I've got the wrong category selected, and then changing that accordingly. Location of the role, the more precise that you are, the better it is, rather than having it as a generalized location. So this person knows directly where they're actually traveling to. Salary ranges is good to have. It's not a need to have on the job ad, and it allows you to hide those job ads. But it does give the person a range for the salaries that they are looking for. So you don't say you found someone that wants $20,000 more than what you're offering. You're already not setting yourself up for success by having some ranges in there, and it's open for both parties. We talk about the 3 core focus selling points. I always talk about it with our clients. Why should they come to you rather than another organization? And whilst I listen to them talking about that, that then puts, I guess, the 3 core selling points, for why they should come over to you rather than sticking with their current employer. Good thing to have in there is highlighting the culture and the benefits of the role. We've had a couple of people, our clients use the star results from doing the employer staff satisfaction survey as a selling tool and seeing that the benefits and how the teamwork works all together, which has been really cool to see that is, and listening to why a person chose that role is because that was something that was highlighted in there. I thought that was a great thing that a candidate picked up previously. And subheadings, so having, which I'll go into the next point in the next slide, is just making sure it's got differentiation of what is it about the company, about the position, and what we're looking for. And then having up to 6 key must-haves, so more about, not just about the person, but actually the role. Can they do bits and pieces of the role? You'd hope that they can do all of them, but additional must-haves like traveling, if it requires for you to have a company car or drive to places, having a driver's license, for example.
I think, May, you really touched on a good one about the culture, because we're certainly finding today when someone's applying for a job, they want to know what the culture's like in the business. They want to know, is there flexibility work arrangements, the hybrid model. That's now the new norm. For those businesses that are like a professional services business, totally different if it's retail, but retail and hospitality hasn't quite opened up just yet, but that's about to happen. I'll move on to the next slide for you. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So talking about the job ad, as I mentioned before, so having subheadings, it's really important to outline the company. So we've put here in terms of about the reputation, where do they sit in businesses, or even just, what the word of mouth has been, the common denominator from the clients and why people keep coming back to you. Having that in there, so a little bit about their business, the location of the company. Sometimes something as fruitful as one of our clients in the countryside of New South Wales, talking about the Cherry City. Just something quirky and fun about them that generally, I didn't even think of that suburb, and it was known for that particular industry or that particular location. So something different, not making it dull or boring. It's about making it a little bit more extra. And talking about why they should work for you, and I love talking about the transferable skills that they can put into there. So whatever they're going to plan to learn from their previous role to this role and this role to the next role, they can still use that. And it's not just a standard job, as you call it. It just gives them a little bit more that they can work with. Then we talk about the role, the position itself. So introduce type of person we're looking for. So this is, the fun things about the role, as well as, are we looking for a go-getter from a salesperson that's a hunter and a gatherer? Are we looking for someone that needs to have a good eye for detail, strong analytical skills? Those are things that we talk about the introduction to the role, and then get into the task-based description. So what will they be doing? So an idea of what a day-to-day looks like. We talk about not having more than, say, 6 or 7, 6 points there. Sometimes you can go that little bit extra in terms of points because there's such detail for the role, but really you can summarize it with a couple of dot points as well. Then we're talking about the essential criteria about the candidate itself. So that's where I like to put about you. I talk about what is the key must-haves, as well as things that they're willing to do. So from a sales perspective, no, they won't be able to show you and talk to you about the KPIs in the application form or the application that they're submitting, but really hitting, say, essential criteria. You might say, okay, give me an example. When you did try, how did you assign your KPIs and targets? What were they in your previous role? So the company can get an idea about that particular person. And as we love to do in Kiva, how to apply, as well as the 5 reasons why they're best fit for the role. And sometimes what you do notice is they might actually bullet point them, but they also might just put it all in the cover letter of the actual application that they submit.
The whole concept of that, Maja, is when someone's applying for the role, it's about making sure we want to see their passion, why they want to come and work for us. That's what, for me, from a business owner, I want to know that you've done your due diligence, done your research, and why do you want to come and work for us? And it also, if I'm doing a follow-up call, as we do in a phone screen, we elaborate. Well, tell us about the 5 reasons why reasons why you've applied for the job, and I want to know that that's consistent, right? So they've actually done their research. There's nothing worse than someone coming to a job interview that knows nothing about your company, what you do, and where you're at. Now, it's totally different if you're a recruitment agency and you want to hide that because you're trying to recruit from a client. But the way we do it, we don't care. We want that passion to come through because we want to see that person genuinely wants to come and work for our brand. You're doing very well. Understanding different ways to recruit. So over to you, Maja.
Yeah, so as I mentioned previously, there are a lot of different ways now to recruit. And I love the fact that sometimes people talk about, we talk about, like you said, the passion, but the website doesn't show the passion that a company may have. Or, they might be fantastic employers, but the website doesn't do it justice. Or the way they share themselves, say we use LinkedIn quite a bit in terms of our professional association and talking about our Kiva brand, for example. We are very passionate in terms of what we share and how we do our marketing. That is a key to different type of roles. And it might not be as successful, like I said, in a retail shop where they are a part of a corporation and really can't do much about brand management. But when we're looking at it as independent companies and have some sort of marketing available to them, even a few posts here and there, seeing that you're engaging, see how you are with your consumer brand, that has proven now more so than ever. Brand is so important, and advertising yourself to the market. As I talk about the job boards, you've got the traditional Seek, LinkedIn. Indeed is quite good, but generally tends to play smart, and it knows when you're putting professional ads out there. Sometimes it will ask you to be charged for those ads, but sometimes, depending on the nature of the role, Indeed might actually be a good source of a recruitment tool. As I talk about the niche industry, so Facebook job ads, for example, for some of our clients in a support working role or a localized role in the countryside, has actually proven that Facebook Marketplace or jobs board is more unique to them. Jora has been a really good tool as well, as I talked about previously, the manufacturing companies and so forth, going into something like Gumtree or going to a different type of site really works for those particular markets. Using an employee referral program. So for example, depending on the size of the organization, you may or may not be able to do this, but let's just say refer a friend and you might get a $100 voucher. Or referring someone that you know that might eventuate to something else, like, you know, in terms of perhaps, you know, it might be a couple of hours off or a free lunch or something like that for that person. As I talked about social media recruiting and group pages, that has been proven successful, again, depending on the location. There's got Jobs Melbourne, Jobs Victoria, there's got Western Suburbs Jobs, there's got all of these pages that you can post to and people apply. And you can still put in your, whether you've used your Seek Pro ad, your LinkedIn ad, your website jobs board page, that could also go into there, as well as looking at perks and benefits for a job. So someone starting, like, say, rather than, you know, a perk of you coming to work with us, we're actually going to put you on a course that's through the actual supplier themselves, which is maybe a 1 or 2 day course, and it's fully paid for by the business. Or, you know, a extra day off here and there, time in lieu and so forth. You can put that as a perk as well. Considering the flexibility, we talk about, Colin, the hybrid model, and especially in the professional services aspect, that might be something that could be introduced, again, with limitations on that. But your traditional 9 to 5, as we used to talk about previously, is a thing of the past, and people would potentially look at future considerations. One thing that's worked quite well, actually, over the last couple of months is student placement through colleges and universities. So this is something like a marketing person might come into play, it might be someone in web design, really doing that initial short, you know, whether it's a 2-week or 4-week, or I think some of them go up to 6 to 10 weeks. They might actually be a good incentive for them to, if they were a great placement, potentially go on to ongoing employment. Actually, funny enough, I just received an email a moment ago prior to this webinar. A student placement finished and said, look, Maja, I'm quite eager into coming to work for the business. It was a great onboarding that you gave me through that placement. I actually want to consider working for the business through one of our clients, which was great. And then feature employees on social media platforms. What I mean by that is, you know, we like to share a few things in terms of 12-month anniversaries, jobs well done. We had Gina doing a recruitment for one of our clients and got something, you know, a little beautiful gift for that. Just sharing that, because it just shows that you know, we are real people and we are working with the contributing to the brand of the business. And the other key is having an expression of interest page on the website, especially if you're a company that not just consistently recruiting, but looking, it's sometimes hard to find good people in that particular industry. Having that as an option will really boost, and you never know, they might come at exactly the right time.
I think, Maja, when you share with your employees that you're going to, you're looking for recruiting and stuff like that, you know, sometimes, you know, if this has happened in the last 12 months, we've actually recruited for a company and didn't put it out there to their team like an internal vacancy that we're looking for this particular person. And one of their staff members actually applied for the job. And, you know, the general manager would say, if he was on this hookup doing this webinar with us, the person, I had a candidate that was right under my nose, but I didn't know and I didn't see it because I didn't realise that this person had a degree in this particular industry. So you've got to get to know and put it out there with your team, because and create that that incentive that we're looking for some people, and encourage. If anyone in here wants to upskill themselves, already have a degree on this, please come forward. Okay, back to you, Maja. Types of recruitment techniques, please.
Yes, great. So we talked a little bit about the skills assessments when they're applying. Actually looking at that skills assessment is really important. Don't put it on there if you're not going to use it, that it's there. I know especially LinkedIn recently has all these skills assessment, even to the length of we talk about, you know, my Word and my Excel is really good, but they get you to go through a mini course, and again, free of charge through LinkedIn, has got, I tested myself on one and I thought, I'm an expert at Excel, and it proven in terms of a macro that I didn't get right. So there's all these little things that you can do as a person, as well as part of the recruitment process, to see to the level of understanding. Like I said, showing a portfolio of their work, especially in the industry that they're in, very much in the social digital world, marketing world, is something that would be really used. In that instance, we had a person in an office-based role as an office admin person, had their own website. So it's anyone can do that. It depends on how much you want to promote yourself. Talking about sample submissions and case studies. So for example, as part of the role, we might actually ask, if let's just say an accounts or an accountant type of role, we might say, this is the problem, show me how you would solve this. And then as part of their first round of interviews, or the second round of interviews, whenever you decide to give it to them, might be going through that and say, great, you've got 7 out of 10 right. Talk me through about the last 3 that you didn't get, and what was your thought process in that. Might have been that we might not have picked up something, or the candidate, their level of understanding. As I talked about the key selection criteria questions, actually have valid questions. Don't have any questions that you think that are just fluffy questions that you want to know. Get to the nitty gritty. So, if it's someone that we're recruiting for in HR, I want to know what their understanding is of the awards and how they get there, what they've done, what's their experience in the past, do they know to call fair work, and so forth. If it's someone that's got concerns, what kind of zero access have they had, and what parts of zero have they used? If it's an accounts role, I want to know to that level of answering of that question. Best to do the phone screens, as I said, in interviews, guaranteed. If you haven't done a phone screen, I'd suggest you go back, screen them first, and then invite them to an interview. As I said, face-to-face and virtual interviews are really important. Either way, definitely do it. Never just focus on a phone call as well. Like I talked about the panel interviews, they work really well depending on the level. And you can do this actually from a entry-level role all the way up to a senior level role. The panel might be 1 or 2 in the first instance, but as it gets into a senior role, you might actually have a panel list of 3 or 4. All from different facets of the business. One might be legal, one might be compliance, one might be HR, and one might be actually the recruiting manager. Group interviews has been proven really successful, especially one of our clients, we've been talking about doing some group interviews. They're looking to recruit 10 to 15 people. Great, let's book in some group interviews, and then they're going to become into slowly independent one-on-one interviews. But just culling people, seeing how they socialize and interact with potential customers or other people is what we tend to look at in the first instance if it's a customer-facing role. And always go for a second round interview, regardless whether it's a 10 or 15-minute or even a half an hour second round interview, do it. Confirm that you're making that right decision, rather than considering or thinking about, oh, I hope so-and-so wants that role still. Just making sure that they are just as happy on coming on board as you are. And one thing people tend to forget about the skills matrix, it's very different from the skills assessment. The skills matrix is, do they tick the boxes for you? And what part of the boxes do they not tick? And how can we help and gather that information as well? Skills matrix says, okay, what are their hard skills, what are their soft skills, and what are the system skills that they need?
I think also too, mate, I just want to add, the more thorough you are with your interviewing process, the more the candidate actually wants to come and work for you, because you're actually outshining other jobs that they're comparing to. I mean, of a recent employee that we put on, one of her feedback was that this was the most thorough interview that she went through, and she felt the vibe that she wanted to come and work for us. So even though she was offered other roles, she actually wanted to come and join us because she felt that we were a perfect fit. So again, it's all part of that professionalism and setting it up. You're doing well, Maja. Understanding the interview process. I'm just going to make sure I'm mindful of time, but you're doing very well. Yep.
No worries. So when we're talking about the interview, so we're looking at that whole, what do we want to achieve? Why are we recruiting for this person? So what does the ad actually have? that we need. And again, reviewing the position and updating the position descriptions if we see fit that it doesn't fit with the current market that we're tendering for. The salary ranges, as I said, determine those. Plan to outline their skills and experience. So when we're looking at it, reviewing, okay, we said this is what they've said, this is what they said in their phone screen, versus, funny enough, what they say, this is what I can do at the initial phone screen, say 2 weeks before, and then it comes to the actual interview and their salary is $20,000 difference. Being really mindful and considerate, saying, okay, this is what they said to us in the phone screen, but when it comes to the actual job offer, it's getting it to where we're accepting it to be. So let's just say they said $50,000 in their phone screen, and then when you talk to them again about the role and they say 75,000, well, we're quite an imbalance, but just making sure we reconfirm that as well. The skills and experience, just considering that when we're going through the interviews, it's okay to elaborate when they're actually in there, say, oh, you did this degree at this university, or whatever the case may be, you did this certificate. What were the challenges that you faced while you're doing that study? The shortlist through the matrix, as I explained before, really important to get it done. Develop the interview guide is really important. So for that consistency, as I said, the phone screeners, the applications, we talk about at least having 6 shortlisted applicants. So you might have called 12 people, but you're actually only shortlisting 6. And then of those shortlisting 6, consider which ones you actually want to interview and have no more than 4 that you actually interview. Then getting the reference checks. I like to actually do that as an added benefit. If I really like them through my first round of interviews and they haven't provided reference checks, I do say, look, do you mind sending your reference checks so we can give them a call if you are successful. Just preparing yourself from an administrative point of view. And then consider if they need police checks, background checks, working with children checks. There's all of these things that might need to be considered, and as well as looking at the training opportunities. As I explained, sometimes it might be supplier training, might be, from our perspective, I talked about the girls joining a WorkSafe, just so they can up their knowledge as part of their onboarding process. So anything that will help them in their role.
And that's all about setting them up for success too, so let's all about that, setting them up for success and make sure it goes through.
So
all right. Interview guide. Yes.
Yeah, so the questions. So really looking at it, I like to separate them. So looking through behavioural questions, asking them for those examples, also looking at situations. So behavioural, really it's more the judgment and the characteristics, the situation, how they manage the problem. So, it might be a flustered, irate customer. How do they handle that situation? And talking through that. Even looking at the emotional side of it, once they've answered it, what was their recovery process after that? How did they self-assess themselves? Did they say, okay, how could I have done this better, or could I have done something differently once I finished that particular task? Motivational questions, so what they aspire to, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Do they want to piece it in the business? Do they want to become, external consultants? Seeing how they actually fit into your business rather than away from your business. Then talking about skills-based questions, so relevant to their role. If they're a WordPress, need to have WordPress experience, talking about how they do a specific theme or whatever the case may be. Again, the stress questions, how they deal with high-pressure environments. What was the situation and how do they recover? Do they seek counselling after that? Did they deal with it? Have they dealt with it in the past? And what they did for the customer. Then the competency questions, so what's their resilience like? How do they work in a team? Are they, if it's a leadership role, how do they encourage others and motivate them, and how they communicate with people?
Can I say those are number one thing that most business owners are looking for right now? Well, people with resilience, they want people that are team players, they want to see those people take lead of their own positions, and communication, I think, is one of the biggest things, especially now that we're all working in a hybrid business model down here in Victoria and New South Wales, although New South Wales is about to open. And I like, the panel questions. So, You know, how would others describe you? You know, really trying to get them to, if I use the word, sell themselves.
That's
Okay.
right.
If you take us to our next topic, Maja, how to offer the job role and set up your next staff member for success, because this is what it's all about. You know, we find that candidate, and you know, I always hear from business owners that say, "Oh, that one didn't work out." And one of the questions I asked them was, "Well, they were good at the interview. What did you do to fail?" So I'll let you take us through this, please.
Yeah. So making the job offer, I think you need to be really mindful of when and how it's done. So, you know, we've given them the experience, we rode them into coming into the business. But then what? If we let them down by not, as we say, okay, we're going to contact you within 48 hours, or, you know, we say we're going to contact them by that date, make sure that you actually contact them, even if it's after hours. Being a business owner or a manager, and if it's the right person, even if it's after 5 o'clock, it's okay to give them that. That's the added experience that you provide them. You know, the whole journey for them is like, well, they went out of their way, they moved quickly, and they got me, they reeled me in with the fishing rope. So because some really good candidates would actually be quickly picked up by other recruiters or other companies. So really important to talk to them about managing those time frames and expectations. We talk about the excitement and welcoming the candidate. So even through the phone call, just say, how does that, you know, I'm just calling you. You hopefully have developed that relationship with them over the phone because you've spoken to them, and saying, look, I'm just wanting to see if you're still interested in the job, and excite them to why they should accept it as well. And talk to them, you know, the reason why we chose you was this, this, and this. And you vouch for that application. And then talking about the onboarding process. Okay, so great. Once you've accepted it, we'll send you a contract or a letter of offer within the next 48 hours. And we'll explain through this to you. We'll call you to go over the contract, talk about the salary offerings, and even ask about feedback and how they actually feel about the offer, and say, look, I've offered you X amount of salary. How does that sound to you? It actually makes them think about it, even though they, like I said, going back to the phone screen, they said this and this is what they were wanting. And then all of a sudden, you know, want to make sure that you're still on the same page. And as I said, sending that offer within that 24 hours. Obviously, knowing weekends happen, and you probably may or may not send it over the weekend, but really getting on top of that recruitment. Yep, the next one about setting up the staff member for success. We're talking about giving them the right tools and resources. So great, Colin joined our business. We want to make sure that he's set up with laptop. If they're using a HRIS system, setting them up on that, a payroll system, just making sure that we've set them up with all, do they need computer, do they need mouse, phone, whatever they might need for that role, setting them up prior to them starting, having that 2-week induction plan or 4-week or check-ins, and explaining that as part of their onboarding, and talk about and motivate the team about the culture. So this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to do it with you, and how that is important, because it gives them that drive to continue in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th week of the business. We love this profiling, and we hope that you do too, in terms of getting to know the personality traits. It actually is a really, really good tool of understanding why someone is the way they are, and how you can use that to benefit both of you, in terms of, okay, you see that as a weakness, working with them, you know, bringing them on the journey with you, and actually changing their perception of that, and bringing and you see in turn it actually helps them and supports them through the time with you. The buddy support. So we talk here, having a friend to go to, and it's a friend, whether it's in terms of the role, in terms of just getting to know how people do things around the business, whether it's showing someone the ropes, having that support that they're comfortable with. And then, as I said, regular check-ins with the new hire, check it with the end of day one, check it for the first couple of days, especially by the end of the 1st week, and then by the end of the 2nd week, and then having regular and consistent catch-ups. And looking at a training plan. So something as simple as just attending a webinar, like people have today, understanding from a recruitment process what they need to do, something that actually helps them look at the way the business does what it does.
I think Maja done a fantastic job. And one thing that's really important is if you create a 2-week induction plan, you give responsibility to other managers or other team colleagues, put it in their diaries and make sure there's some sort of sign off or acknowledgement. Now, you've done a fantastic job. Do we have any questions? Anyone want to ask some questions? So nothing's come through the chat box. So sometimes I feel that is, that's a good thing. So we've covered some good points. And just hang on for 5 minutes because we are going to give away one of our online training programs. So I'll just move towards that before, and if anyone's got any questions, they can put it through the chat box. That'd be great. But, this is what we're all about. We're very passionate about what we're all about at KBA. And, we're doing some really great stuff at the moment for our clients around definitely business strategy and growth, that people and culture, the HR advice and support. And, I'm sitting in a recording studio right now that we've set up in our business, and I'm starting to do a whole lot of training, disc profiling and stuff like that, which is absolutely fantastic. So used to go and travel all over Australia, and now I'm doing it from my own little recording studio here in Essendon. Our next webinar is about getting your payroll and rostering right for the peak season. And this is really important. So I encourage you to get on board with this webinar. Please register because definitely that's a big thing now. And the watchdog is out there making sure people are getting their payment right. So online training program, where we're doing these 2-hour online workshops. The next one is improve your people and culture strategy to grow your business. That's what it's all about. I'm doing that with Alison. I've just got a little container down here. It's actually not a container, it's my red train, which I've used in another training program. But in the back, I've put some people's names in here. And if I was to go through and pull it out, have a look. We have it's a Rhiannon, I think it's Rickards, is the person that's been pulled out of my train. That will get a free ticket to this online training program, which is our giveaway for the webinar. If you really liked our webinar and we give you some good insight on how to best recruit and any of other programs, please go and give us a Google review, because I think that's what the world is doing now. It is all about people are searching you up on a website because it's all online, and one of the things they're looking at is the Google reviews. So 13 years of training with feedback forms. If only I had Google reviews done from that, probably around 2,000 Google reviews right now. So I've learned my lesson, but if you really enjoyed today, please give us some feedback. Thank you very much for everyone for joining our webinar today. And many thanks to you, Maja. 5 years in our business, great milestone. And, you really have gone above and beyond in putting that presentation together and delivering today. So there's no questions. Feel free to contact us if you've got any other questions. And thanks very much. And that concludes our webinar. And congratulations to Rhiannon Richards. Yeah, so we'll get in contact with you and give you a free ticket. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.